What's up, Steelers fans? Well, that first half went about as well as could have been expected with the resources that were available today. George Pickens, Deshaun Elliott, Larry Ogunjobi on the sideline. The latter two would have played key roles in slowing Saquon Barkley down today. Unfortunately, injury seems to have done a large part of that. He hasn't played much of this game. When he was playing, his first carry of the game, TJ shut him down pretty emphatically with a tackle for loss. So that was a tone setter in this game. A lot of the analysis building up to this game was, you have to stop Saquon first if you want any chance of winning in this game. You have to stop the running game, and for the most part, that's just like coach speak because it doesn't mean much of anything. There's nothing schematically helpful in stop the run game that's going to help you stop the run game. The Steelers' strategy seems to be focusing on that run game. They seem to be taking the analysts' advice. Devoting a lot of resources to the box, not a lot of safety help over the top, and the Eagles are exploiting that. They're taking a lot of, taking what the defense is giving them. The Steelers' offensive start in this was absolutely horrendous. They had like negative 20 yards through their first 4 or 5 drives. If not for those two fumbles that they were able to force and recover. The first one was a TJ strip sack. The second was on the punt. Was that Skoranek? No, that was Mark Robinson on the punt with the forced fumble there. So if not for the contributions from the defense and special teams, and TJ with 2 sacks in the first half, Highsmith with the sack, the defense is really for giving up 17 points and a half. The defense has done a pretty good job, considering how little the offense has helped them out in time of possession. And by the way, they mentioned in this broadcast that the Steelers are first in the NFL in time of possession, which I had no idea. That's hugely surprising to me. I know he had been making strides in the ball possession game, with the running game coming together, the offensive line churning out these angry blocks like I've been talking about. But I had no idea that we were first in the NFL on that. That's very impressive, and that's the way that you need to be first in the NFL on time of possession. If you're going to be a team that wins with their defense and special teams, you need to keep the ball out of their offense's hands. On the first forced fumble, the TJ strip sack, I think there were only 10 men on the field for the Steelers defense there. There was some confusion with Highsmith running off. He was trying to run back on. What do I do on this play? So I started counting men. I think they only had 11 helmets on the field for that play. So that's extra impressive if you can get a third down stop and a strip sack out of it, with one less man on the field than the other team. If you're playing with a red card disadvantage and you still turn it into a big play for your side of the ball. After the second turnover, when the Steelers were gifted field position, and it's a good thing that the special teams did that, they had to set themselves up in Boswell range, because the offense sure as hell wasn't going to get off their ass and do it. But Najee had a nice little run there with a hurdle. He was not to be out Barkleyed. He wants to be spoken of in the same sentence as guys like Saquon, and well, there's nobody really in the Saquon category. Nobody else in that category with him right now. So, but Najee probably feels slighted by that. And then after that play, you had a double personal fouls on the Steelers. I thought, and they said on the broadcast that they were expecting offsetting penalties there. One on Washington and then one on Austin. I think, you know, I guess it's a penalty on Washington for driving a guy into the stands, for over blocking there. He's kind of finishing his block. That's kind of, let that one go. And then I get the Austin one for coming and throwing shoves, but he threw a shove because the Philly player threw a shove first. So you're obviously looking at the play because you penalize Washington for what happened. How do you miss the shove that happens that precipitates the Austin shove? Because Austin wasn't any more demonstrative. He wasn't any more violent in his shove. At the same time, you had the Justin Fields, the late slide play that you get an extra 15 yards out of. That really, I don't know if it was the Fields run itself or the 15 yards after that. Or the Ben Skoranek completion before that actually sparked a meaningful drive for this offense late in that first half. But the Dan Moore penalty, the holding, was BS, and I think the reason you know that is because they didn't show a replay. There's something in the referees union that they don't show those guys up on purpose, and if there's an obvious blown missed call, they're not going to show it in stadium. I didn't know that also extended to the broadcast rights. They're not going to show it to their national audience. Something that Tom Brady brought up a couple of times in this game was that the Eagles defense was shading heavily to the strong side of the Steelers formation, the side that they have more eligible receivers on. And what that means is that the guy on the weak side, the X receiver, the position that would normally be George Pickens, that's currently being platooned by Mike Williams and Miller, Scotty Miller, they're not winning their matchups. The X receiver is the guy who is most often soloed up on his side of the field. He's the guy who can win those solo matchups. He's a Kobe Bryant type who can create on his own. He can play that ISO ball. The Y receiver, which is your tight end, and the Z receiver, they're on the other side of the ball with the slot. And you can scheme those guys off of each other to create opportunities for any of those guys. So they don't have to be able to win on their own. What we're seeing without George Pickens out there is, number one, Wilson isn't taking the chances over the top on those back shoulder balls. Pickens wouldn't necessarily win those routes at a fantastic rate either, but he was getting the chances to make the catch because Russ was just chucking it, and Pickens, with the superior contested catch ability, he was finding ways to come down with it more often than not. You got to at least chuck that one up to keep the defense honest, because the Eagles were entirely disrespecting the weak side's ability to win. We don't need any safety help over the top for this guy. We can flood all our extra help to the strong side of the field, to the schemes they're trying to play. That's what George Pickens not being out there does to this offense. What do we talk about Minkah Fitzpatrick doing for this defense? Is taking away the entire center field for the offense. George Pickens does the equivalent of that to the defense. He makes you put two guys on his side of the field. When you spend all week preparing for George Pickens and then you find out he's not going to play, you're basically playing with 12 men on defense because you have an extra guy who's not focused on helping on that side of the field, and he's free to slide over to the other side and, deal with whatever kind of game you're trying to run on him. The Steelers started, and this is something they always do, they were rotating other guys through that X receiver role, and, it seemed like the Steelers offense started to click when they were giving other guys chances. Russell Wilson, a couple nice little scrambles, including a 3rd down and 1, a quarterback sneak conversion, showing the Eagles that you don't need a push to get those conversions. The Freiermuth touchdown was a nice piece of hands coming down to finish that play. We saw it on the next drive out, Freiermuth having trouble securing catches, because that ball hung up there forever in the air from Russell Wilson, and it was looking like the Eagles were going to be able to converge on it and stop that completion from happening. But Freiermuth was able to play through the catch point, and strong hands brought it down. Good touchdown. Got back in this thing, got the ball back, and got another field goal out of it. So right now we're sitting at 17-13. Second half's about to start. I'm feeling better about this game now than I did at the beginning of this game. I'll tell you, this is the first time I've picked against the Steelers this season in my girlfriend's family NFL pool. So I'm not feeling great about that, but I would be more than happy to be wrong about that one. Let's hope that the recent trends continue for the Steelers offense and they find a way to turn this thing around. But first, we got to get a stop here. So Chris Boswell kicking off. TJ's coming on the field. Let's see what Cam Hayward, Peyton Wilson, Joey Porter, and the gang can teach them about football here. Well, the trends did not hold in the second half. Unfortunately, the Steelers go down in this one 27-13. Actually, it's 27-13 now, and actually it might get worse than that. It's just the 2-minute warning, and I've officially declared this thing over. It was promising for a moment, especially after the flea flicker that found Calvin Austin. And then their first play, they hit that gimmick play. It looked like that thing was going to hit the linebacker in the back. Somehow he threaded that into Calvin Austin. That was an impressive throw and catch, pretty much perfect placement. Couple of things that frustrated me coaching-wise in the second half. Declining a penalty, choosing 2nd and 20, declining a holding penalty and choosing 2nd and 20 over 1st and 30. And then on that 2nd and 20 play, they immediately got either, if not all of it, almost all of it, and then we're able to convert on that play. Why would you not take the yards to put them in 1st and 30? With how your defense was playing at that point, you might have been better off playing the field position battle. But they instead played it the way they did. Obviously, there's that roughing the long snapper penalty, which Blandino said, you can't run over the long snapper, and Montravius Adams was trying to go over the guard, and then he was shoved onto the long snapper. So it's one of those classic, and we're about to go final 27-13 here. But he was like, Montravius was not trying to go over the long snapper. He was trying to go over the guard, and the guard, shoved him off of him onto the long snapper. And that gave the Eagles a free first down. And you notice on the Steelers the special teams penalty, the Jalen Carter forearm shiver to Connor Hayward's helmet. They did not give them the automatic first down there. They looked at it on the replay and determined that the penalty occurred after the ball had already left the punter's foot, apparently. And that threshold is significant for some reason. That's probably in the rules. But frustrating to learn that for the first time in that way. But the roughing the snapper penalty was not a penalty. But then when the rope was starting to get short, you're down 14 points, and you choose to punt with about 10 minutes to go, 10 and a half minutes to go. Choose to punt it away and hope for your defense to get a stop. They had the best possible scenario coming out of the punt. They had the Eagles backed up on their own 2. And then they had another penalty to get them on their own 1. A series of events unfolded that supremely just pissed the hell out of me. A missed holding on TJ in the end zone that would have been a safety, should have given the Steelers the ball back, but instead it turns into a third down conversion. Lane Johnson was just wrapped around TJ's neck. It's frustrating on that one. The one that really pisses you off is the next one that they missed, the one that TJ got hurt on. I understand that they're letting offensive players get away with more in favor of explosive offense. They want more scoring. The league does, because they think it's better for viewership. And that's all good and well. I understand why they're letting guys get away with certain things, but it's gone to the point where they're hurting defensive players. They're playing with their paychecks. They're messing with their contracts. Who knows if TJ is going to get another contract in the NFL? I mean, knock on wood. It seemed like he was moving decently well at the end of this game, but say something more severe happened to him. Say his career was ended right there, and you're not even going to give him the solace of giving his team 15 yards for giving his Achilles to this team. You're not even going to give him a personal foul for that. I mean, why would anyone play on the defensive side of football in 2024? Play offense, make your money, retire. Your heart breaks for TJ. You hope that he's not, this isn't a long-term thing. This can't be allowed to continue. This, letting guys get away with this kind of crazy stuff, just because you want more points on the board. You're messing with guys' lives. You're messing with their tendons, obviously. And I hate to take it to a sensational place, but I would like for TJ Watt, when he hangs up his cleats at the end of his career, to be able to play golf with his grandson someday. To be able to take his granddaughter down to the fishing hole, down to the creek, teach her how to do that fly fishing thing, where whatever fly fishers do. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know fly fishing to impress you people. I'm clearly well into a digression here, but we have to start defending these defensive players. It's insane the things that offensive players are allowed to get away with. Bottom line is the Eagles were able to salt away that last 10 and a half minutes, just running the ball with cheap conversion after cheap conversion. After TJ was off the field, this team had very little fight left in it. You heard Captain Cam out there on that last third down conversion the Eagles had, saying something that he may get fined for, caught on the broadcast this week, but definitely a passionate man, but his spirit can't beat in the hearts of all of those Steelers out there. And when you're playing this entire game against a very run-focused team without Larry Ogunjobi, without Deshaun Elliott, ironically, one of your best run defenders in the team, and he's playing a safety position, the farthest back in theory. Strong safety, it's a little bit different than the free safety, the guy in the center field, but Deshaun Elliott is a huge asset in the run game. He would have been huge today against Barkley, against those screens that Barnwell, the backup there, was able to, punish the Steelers with today. So the absence of those guys was huge. At the same time, on the other end of things, the Eagles had some significant absences. I don't think Hurts was 100%. Obviously, a abysmal start for the offense, but they did show us some things at certain points throughout this game. The thing that the Eagles showed you is exactly what this team wants to be. They showed you the blueprint for what the Steelers team needs to be to win in order to take down these top tier teams, like the likes of which the Steelers are going to play the next 2 weeks, in the Ravens and the Chiefs. And that's, you have to be stout defensively, and the Steelers are a good takeaway team. The Eagles are not. But there's that old axiom about rush and coverage going hand in hand. The better the coverage is on the back end, the better it makes your pass rush look. And pass rush. Oh, my dentures just slipped there. and vice versa. Obviously, if you got T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith getting after it, you can have Joe Schmo in the back end. If you only have 2.5 seconds to get that ball out, it's going to make Joe's job a lot easier. I mentioned the injuries on the defensive side. For the offense, overcoming the George Pickens injury proved to be impossible. But getting him back in the mix, getting a healthy defense together, the Steelers will be able to do all the things that the Eagles can do to with the run control, the ball control offense, and then the over the top stuff, the deep threats, like the things that AJ Brown can do to threaten a defense. George Pickens is capable of doing all those things and more. And then you have Calvin Austin, who can give you a reasonable facsimile at least of Devontae Smith's contribution. The two-headed monster of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren can approximate what a Saquon Barkley can give a team. But the thing that the Eagles don't have that the Steelers can bring as an X factor is that special teams. And another turnover they gave you today. That X factor, along with a truly dominant defense that if it gets healthy and has all its pieces, this defense we know can be, and we have seen them be this year, combined with an offense that can, mix and match those jabs, those body blows that Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren can give you with the uppercuts of the occasional back shoulder ball to George Pickens up the sideline. And Pat Freiermuth, some of those seam balls too, and then you have Pat Freiermuth, who I'm going to have to go to baseball metaphors now because I only know two kinds of boxing moves. He can be that, that split fastball, that change to the changeup, that those seam balls can really keep the defense honest. You can't play too hard on the outsides because you have Freiermuth and you have Austin, who can create some havoc if he gets the ball over the middle. If they can mix and match that with the at times dominant and angry and bullying running attack that you get with Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Dan Moore, Broderick Jones, call those names out, those big woolly mammoths. They're working hard, give them their recognition, as Wolf would say. The way that people talk about this Eagles team, the way that they can dominate you and bully you, the Steelers have all the parts to be able to play that kind of ball too. The Eagles are a hard defense to do it against because of Jalen Carter and because of Nakobe Dean and, all the pieces they have, especially in the back end, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay. Like I said, all those guys making the guys up front look even better than they are, and they sure are sensational players at all levels of that Eagles defense. But we had some tough luck today. That Najee fumble is obviously a 14-point swing in a 14-point game. That's significant. But playing the what if game, saying, "Oh, if we played mistake-free ball and they made like only 2 or 3 more mistakes than they made, but we didn't make any of our mistakes, we might have almost been close in this game." That's loser talk. I'm trying harder not to seek solace in that what if game. What you should seek solace in is that the Steelers team did deserve to be on the field with the Seagulls team. And I forget if I mentioned it earlier, Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback this team has seen thus far this year. And that's including Lamar Jackson, who they're going to see again next week, and may or may not see Mahomes on Christmas. He was hurt today, some ankle involvement. He seemed to be in pain and not moving very well, but he's also a guy who recovers like, he eats stem cells for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So definitely count on Mahomes playing when it comes time for that Steelers matchup. If we match up again with this team, of course it would be in the Super Bowl, but I would feel better about that matchup having played them already than I felt today going into this game. I thought there was no chance that we would win this game, especially with the losses that we had. Being fully healthy on both sides of the ball, I think we would give this team or any team a run for their money. There's no team out there that you have to feel like you don't deserve to be on the field with. To be honest, it's been a while since we could say that as Steelers fans. So let's just ride with this feeling. Let's not let the loss get us too low. And I'm sure when Hard Knocks comes out this week, and once again, Mike Tomlin's going to be the star of it. He is absolutely owning all of the other AFC North coaches in that program.